Here we have the inside of the Auto-Trail Tribute F60. If we firstly come to the main control panel, just above the fridge freezer, we can turn the 12 volt on just here. Once we've then done this, we then have beneath it the majority of the lights. They can all be individually turned on and off on their own switches. The only lights that do not go off with this button are the spots beneath the bench seats and the splashback light in the kitchen area. After that, we then have water pump on and off. Water pump needs to be on so we can get water out of the taps, flush the toilet and fill the boiler if it's been drained down. After that, we then have awning light on and off. We then have this next one just here, which will give us information. So if we go back to the beginning, you'll see that this is a Sargent EC363 control panel, and it's just letting us know we're using a leisure battery. It's displaying the time and the temperature. After that, it's giving us the voltage of the leisure battery, and it's also letting us know that it's under charge because we're hooked up to main supply. It's given us an indication of the voltage of the vehicle battery, how much water's in the fresh tank and the waste tank. We can select the battery from this one here. We just use the arrows, so if I want to, I can now switch and run the back end of the motorhome off the vehicle battery, or now flick back to the leisure. Whichever battery you've selected on here whilst you're hooked up to main supply is the battery you are charging. We then get internal temperature and the humidity. We can then adjust the clock if needed, and again we just use the arrow down here, and then we return back to the beginning. Beside the main control panel, we then have the Whale heating and hot water control. So you'll see we have a button here for water heating and a button here for heating. If I now begin to press this, it will go over a series of icons until eventually returning back to off. So if we start with the first icon, which is a little picture of a snowflake, this is the boiler's frost protection mode. So if you have water in the boiler but you do not necessarily want to be heating it, you can put it onto this symbol here, and then if the outside temperature drops below 3-4 degrees, it will then come on to avoid any frost damage. After that, we have a single wavy line. Wavy lines represent mains electricity. So now, because we're hooked up to mains, we are now heating hot water using about 1 kilowatt. Two wavy lines, mains electricity at 2 kilowatts. So you have 1 and 2, just dependent on the ampage of the site you're on to stop yourself from tripping. If we don't have any mains, we can put it on a little picture of the flame and use the gas. And if we have both power sources available, we can run on gas and mains at 1 kilowatt or gas and mains at 2 kilowatts. Dual fuel is especially handy in the winter months if you want to get up to temperature nice and quickly, or if you just want longer showers, or if there's going to be more than one of you having a shower in quick succession of each other. Whenever you are consuming gas, you will get a little flame just appear here to let you know. The heating works very similar. So one wavy line, mains electricity, but this time 500 watts. Two wavy lines, 1 kilowatt, and 3 wavy lines, 2 kilowatts. We again have gas on its own, and then the dual fuel mode. We control the actual temperature on the plus and the minus just here. While kind of recommend dropping the thermostat to the little moon if you need your heating on whilst you're sleeping, it's a nice low heat, but secondly the fan will be nice and quiet. And lastly, if it is just a warm day and you just want to circulate the air, you can drop it to the little picture of the snowflake just here. Again, whenever it's consuming gas, you will get a little flame appear. If there's a problem with either the water heater or the heating, it will let you know. And if it's a water heater problem, a little red exclamation mark will appear where my finger is just here. And if it's a heating problem, red exclamation mark where my finger is here. To find out what the problem is, if it's appeared on the water heater, just hold the water heater button down and you'll get a series of little red lights appear. And then within the manual, it will tell you what the problem is. And obviously if it's a heating problem, hold this one down and again, it will display. A lot of the time it will be basic stuff, so it'll be telling you that it does not have main supply or you've run out of gas, etc. Once you've rectified the problem, you will need to reset the control panel. So if it's a water heating problem, you will need to hold this button down first and then press the plus button at the same time. And if it's a heating problem, hold the heating button first and then press the plus button at the same time. I will now turn the system back off again, and then you'll see in a moment both of the flames will then disappear as the system turns itself off. There we go, the heating one's disappeared, and then once the boiler has gone into shutdown, it will disappear. There we go. If we now come to the bench seats and we move the cushions, we can then slide the section out to reveal the consumer unit just here. So we have the trip switches just here and they are all labelled up, so we have the individual MCBs, the main RCD and test button just here. So if something's not working on mains, just check to see whether or not you've tripped inside the van. And we then have the 12-volt fuses just here, and again they're all labelled up. Along the top here we have isolator buttons for components that use mains electricity. So we have the green isolator button for the battery charger, so if I turn this off now, we will not be charging either the leisure or the vehicle battery from the main supply. So really this one can be left alone, it's more for maintenance. And then we have the amber one just here for the heating. So again, if I now turn this one off, you will then get an error code on the Whale heater letting you know that it doesn't have main supply, because obviously this has been turned off. And we then have full system shutdown. So if you're not using the motorhome for long periods of time, you can use this black button just here and it will then shut down the back end of the motorhome and kill any residual draw on the leisure battery. Also in here we have the isolator switch for the boiler. So again, if we flick this off, the boiler will not operate on main supply, and again you'll get a red exclamation mark on the Whale control panel. We then have the majority of the gas isolation taps just here. So the top ones, the hob and the oven, and then the bottom ones are the hot water and heating. Again, with gas isolation taps, I always say they are more for maintenance, so do not need to be turned on and off. If you do smell gas in the van, I always say go to the source and turn the gas bottle off. Also in this compartment just here, we have the boiler drain valve. So to drain the boiler down for winterization, all we need to do is just come to this little yellow lever just here. It's currently in the closed position, so to drain it down, make sure the water pump has been turned off and then put it into this position just here, and then the boiler will drain down. To refill it, put it back into the position it is in now, fill up your fresh water tank, and then turn the water pump on, and it will then begin to prime the boiler back up again. You will need to open up taps, turn them to the hot first, usually as a rule. They'll cough, they'll splutter. Wait until the water's running freely and then turn to the cold and repeat the process, and then close, and then the boiler will fully prime itself with no air locks in it. If we now slide this one back out of the way again, we can then go across to the opposite side. And tucked away in this side is the location of the leisure battery. So it's just hidden in the floor just here. You'll find on the top the main 20 amp 12 volt fuse. Also in here we have the mains hookup and the jack and wheel brace. We then have the Avtex television. So it behaves like any normal telly. Just turn it on just here. This travel television has a DVD player in this side and then USB plug-in points on the top. As you move around, you will need to retune the television in, and that can be easily done on the fast retune button just here. Just hold it down and it will then take you straight back to the retune menu, and then it's just a matter of pressing OK to retune the telly back in again. You then have all the normal functions, television guide, simple as that. Next we have the Thetford fridge freezer, on and off on the square just here. This is an automatic model, so as long as you are on A for auto, it will find the best power source it can for you. So because we're currently hooked up to main supply, it's put us onto mains. If I now went outside and pulled the mains lead out, it would then automatically attempt to fire itself up onto gas. And as soon as I start the engine, it will then go over to 12 volt maintain to keep itself cold whilst on the move. If I want to manually select something, just hold the square in. You'll see the A now flashing, and we can use the arrows to maneuver about. So we have main supply, 12 volt maintain, and gas. Once you've decided what you want, press the square again, and then you can alter the temperature. So I'm now manually putting it onto gas at level 3. If there's a problem with the unit in any shape or form, it will flash and the light here will change to red. At the moment this is just letting us know that we do not have 12 volt because the engine isn't running. To be fair, automatic is the easiest to have it on. And then if we now open the door, we have a very large freezer compartment, and then the fridge. Besides the fridge, we have the location for the freestanding table, and then beneath the fridge we have the gas isolation taps for the fridge and the barbecue point. In the locker just above the sink, we have the solar panel controller just here. So we have a rocker switch up here with 1 and 2 on it. If it's on 1, as it shows on here, the solar panel will be charging the vehicle battery. If it's in the middle, we've turned the solar panel off. And if we flick it down, we can charge the leisure battery. The regulator will stop any overcharging occurring, so you do not really need to have it switched off at any point. You can literally just have it either on leisure or vehicle. We have the 3 gas burner rings. It is just push and twist. Beneath it we have the oven and the grill. Push in to the left for the oven. And to the right for the grill. Beneath the oven you will find the location of the water pump. Above my head we have the Omnivent fan. To use this, wind to put the roof vent up. We then have middle button to turn the unit on, and then we have arrows out for extraction, arrows in for cooling, and variable fan speed just by pressing. Do make sure that the vent is back down again for travel. Above the entrance door we have the smoke alarm and carbon monoxide alarm. They are just battery operated, so do press the buttons from time to time to test and make sure they're functioning. If we now go into the washroom, we have the Thetford toilet just here. The bowl does swivel about. Open to the cassette on the grey lever just here. And then blue button to flush. Close the cassette again. And then the level indicator for the cassette is just here, so it will rotate round from green to red when it needs emptying. If you do leave the flap open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. So if you are feeling resistance, just make sure nobody's left it open. We then have the basin and the shower. Do make sure that the shower screen is secured for travel. If we now go into the wardrobe, we have the location of the digital amplifier for the TV aerial, on and off just on the bottom, and then control the boost just on the inner dial just here. Also in here we have the fire extinguisher. And then perched just up here we have the thermal silver screens for the front windows.